Hi, welcome to the Charleston Chicks. I'm your host, Melanie.
And I'm your host, Lisa Nicole. Today, we have a very special guest sharing her story about how she survived an abusive relationship. We know this is a deeply personal story that many women may feel familiar with. Abuse doesn't always look the way we expect it to. It can be emotional, psychological, subtle, and isolating. It can happen at any stage of life. So this conversation is about recognizing the signs and the slow erosion of physical and emotional safety. It's about strength rediscovered and about what it takes to reclaim your voice. Brenna is not only sharing her story of survival, but one of wisdom, resilience, and the courage to begin again. So we'd like to introduce you to our amazing, badass guest, Brenna Lawrence, a TEDx speaker, confidence coach, and so much more. Brenna, tell us more about yourself.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'll give you the intro that's really my favorite. I am Brenna Lawrence, proud wife and mother, raising two little ass kickers with the love of my life. I am tenacious and passionate, and I thrive at facilitating solutions and improvements. By day, I am also vice president of business development for Brown & Brown Insurance, but I get to do a lot of fun stuff alongside that.
So let's get into today's episode.
So, Brenna, first of all, thanks for being a friend of the Chicks.
Of course. Huge fan.
Thrilled to have you here and for your willingness to share your story. So, I'm going to just give the floor to you and let you start letting us know and our viewers know like what your story is.
Okay. So I guess the way it really makes sense to me to share it was because of my work. I'm basically a professional networker, and I was connecting with different people all over Charleston. And one of the people that I connected to was Tasha Connors, who is the CEO at My Sister's House.
Like, what is My Sister's House for folks who don't know?
My Sister's House is a domestic violence advocacy group here in Charleston. They've been doing good work in the Low Country for over 45 years now. And the number one thing is that they help people that are going through it make a safe exit, which is You can't really do anything else if you don't get that safe exit. So that's the number one thing that they do. And I've been an advocate and a partner, and my family, works with them, and we do all the things. So My Sister's House is incredibly important, in my opinion.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we were talking about the problem with getting sponsorships. And while we were talking, I knew that I had a history of domestic violence, and it's not something that you lead with, right? So I'm sitting there and I work in corporate America, and I'm like, so people that are cutting checks don't want to be associated. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, it bothered me so much. And the more I thought about it, the way I understood it was like, so we're not doing cute things. Like, it's not like for like the animal society, right? And there's not puppies involved because everybody loves puppies. And it's not fighting cancer, which so many people can get behind because cancer touches so many of us. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, but like this is important, and it impacts families and children. And if children see it, there's a likelihood to repeat it and to end up in those situations. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I get why the companies don't want to be associated because we don't lead with domestic violence. But that's because I don't lead with domestic violence.
A stigma.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely a stigma. There's a ton of shame involved, and we can definitely get into that. But what got me was like, where do I get off being pissed when I'm actually, I don't want to talk about it either. And if there's someone who should talk about it, logically it would be someone who it's impacted. Mm-hmm. So then it was like my epiphany. All the things came together, and I was like, I want to level up. I want to help. And I'm part of the problem. So naturally, I applied for a TED Talk because I'm like, what else am I going to do?
Just put myself in that very uncomfortable situation.
100% uncomfortable.
That's what it actually takes.
Mm-hmm. But it was life-changing. I don't think anyone who goes through TEDx experience, I don't see how it doesn't change their life. But I know for me, it changed so much. I'm so grateful for what it did, even though going through it was a roller coaster. It was definitely an emotional roller coaster. And I did not have therapy during that time. I had like been in and out of therapy my whole life, but that I raw dogged it. I was like, I got too much stuff going on. I just don't have time. And the idea of like unpacking it while I'm building this talk, it was just like, it was a lot. So There were some days when I cried a lot, and there were some days where I was like, I'm just not going to think about it today. But I know the good that it's done. Every time I talk about it, people come up to me and, it's like either me too or I've seen it and things like that. So I know that I'm doing good. And I think part of my healing is helping other people, and especially letting them know that like there is a life on the other side. And I call it like the light. Like you can come into the light and there's this like, you can have this big, incredible life. And I do. So I live it very much like check this out. This is so good. And this is what works for me. And it could work for you. And if it doesn't, like, I can probably still find you help that would somehow improve your situation, but I'm very sympathetic to what it looks like and what it feels like to go through it. And I feel like I am a very strong advocate because I feel personally protective, over like what it's most women that are going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to be in the audience when you gave your
I appreciate that.
TED Talk,
That
which
was a big deal.
was amazing. Lisa's seen the video of it. It was amazing. And so I won't take anything from your story because I think we want to hear like how you came to find yourself in that kind of relationship.
Okay.
And kind of what that looked like from an insider perspective.
By the time I met my ex, I was a sitting duck. Like my parents had gotten divorced. My mom was working nights. It went from being a very strict household to an absolute free-for-all. And I was, going into my senior year in high school. I had a job. I had a car. So I basically did whatever I wanted. And I had a boyfriend who 1,000% took advantage of all of it. And I think when I really think about it, a big part was I thought he was better than me. Like when we dated, like I felt like he was doing me a favor. You know what I mean? Like I was like punching above my weight class kind of thing. And then I think he knew it. And I think he just really took advantage of it. And the first time he hit me, we had dated, we broke up for a little bit. And I was actually, I started talking to somebody else, and we didn't go to the same school. And he found out that I was talking to this other guy and called me up and was like, I miss you. I want to work this out, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is what I want. Like, I didn't want to break up. So like, this is great. And then when we got back together, and I say this in my TED Talk, we were making up. And then all of a sudden I saw stars, and it's because he punched me in the face. Like when I was mostly naked, like it was
like out of nowhere.
I mean,
no
he was planning it, but I did not think that he was going to do anything like that. And like it was horrible. It was like instantly catastrophically ashamed of everything. Cause I was like, I hope that nobody else has to feel that, but like it was crazy. Like thinking about it now, like being naked, get punched in the face, like that's rough. And then he was so calm about it, and then explained why he did it, why it was my fault. This is the only way things are going to get better. And I was just kind of like, I'm so sorry, and like that put me on the path that like, it just kept snowballing because I didn't want people to find out what happened. And it was really because like, I was like hooking up with him. Like I wasn't supposed to be hooking up, and my mom wasn't home and like all the things. And then I definitely didn't want people to find out that I was naked. And like, in retrospect, I'm like, that is just a small detail to like give up all my, like everything, you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe that I stomached that back then and was like, love you, see you tomorrow, like it was crazy. But like, I did believe I was in love with him. I'm sure I was in love with him. So, but that's not good love.
No.
But that's how that started. And then,
How did you hide that from people? If he punched you in the face, left a bruise probably.
Oh yeah.
How did you?
I wore makeup and told people like the same kind of, I'm clumsy, I fell. And I'm saying nobody said anything. And I like in my heart, in the one hand, I was glad because I was like, if somebody says something and he finds out, like I'm going to be in trouble. So that also added into, I didn't go as many places. Like if I was bruised up, like I'm not going to go anywhere. And, but in my heart, I wish that somebody was like, I know what happened. And like, it doesn't have to be like that, but like no one said anything.
It's crazy how many people don't say something. It's like they're afraid to step in and say anything when it can save someone's life.
They could. And I mean, my own mom, like I lived with my mom, my little sister, and my ex like wasn't living with us, but like kind of moved in for a little bit. Like he was there a lot. And now as a mother, and I'm in my 40s and I think about it and I'm like, how could you not do something? Like, I don't care how uncomfortable it would have been for you to have this conversation with me, but it was your responsibility. Like, you should have done something. And I know that you can Monday morning quarterback it, but like, I'm a mom, I have 2 girls, and I'll be damned if I'm going to be like, this is awkward, I don't want to talk about it. Like, we're going to talk about it. And if I lose my shit and I'm moving out, okay. But at least a conversation was had. And as I got older and it finally kind of came out, all the things came out, I was blamed. It was like, well, you were difficult.
You were blamed by your mother?
I was blamed. Yep.
So
she's one of the people who were like, well, you had a lot going on, and you're always fighting and you're always pushing back, and all these things that later on I was like, why do I always feel like the black sheep of my family? And it's like, because I am, because like, they're kind of dicks. I don't know if I can say that, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like all the pushing back is, and I embrace it now, because I'm like, I won't tolerate less than, and I won't. We talked about that. Like, I am here to break generational curses, and it happens as they come up. So if there's 3 in a row in a day, like, that's how that day goes, because it's not something that I'm ever gonna have too much and be like, I'm tired. Like, I am never too tired to do something that's gonna help me and to positively impact my girls' lives.
So that first time but your relationship with this person spanned like 10 years, right?
Oh yeah.
And so from the first time that you got punched in the face, how often was there physical violence in your relationship?
In the first year, it was kind of sporadic. And the punch in the face was the only like visible one. After that, it would be like below the neck, like couldn't really see anything. But then after that, it was, I mean, he had like a hair trigger temper. So if he was drinking, it was definitely worse. But frankly, like, sometimes if I was drinking, it was worse, because I like kind of got the nerve to be like, you can't talk to me like that. And that didn't usually, it didn't usually end well when stuff like that happened. But I would say it was kind of a roller coaster. There were some dark times. Like, that's when I had never been body slammed before. And like, this is crazy. It was so stupid. I had made dinner and there was chicken and mushrooms on the plate. And he thought that I took more chicken than him. And he lost his mind. And he body slammed me, and it broke a futon. Like, it was crazy. Like, I just laid there for a second, because I was like, I don't know if I can walk. Like, it was nuts. So it was like, you never knew what was going to make him mad. Like, if I slept next to him, I had to like make sure that I didn't roll over or touch him when he was sleeping, because he didn't like that. So if I did, I would get woken up by like being hit. So then I would sleep on the floor so that I wouldn't touch him in his sleep. And it was just like psychological damage.
How did you finally get out of it?
Yeah.
What did you do?
So I lived together. We lived in Brooklyn, moved back to Albany, and we had separate apartments, but it was kind of like always in his orbit. He was very dominant in my life, and it's like embarrassing to say now because of like who this Brenna is, but I really thought that it would get better, and I thought that I could fix it. And I thought the longer it goes, the more I'm showing that like, I'm gritty, and like, you can trust me, and like, I really do care, but like, we just need to get past this stuff. But when it finally came to a head, I was living in his building. I was renting an apartment from him, and I was working at his restaurant. Him and his brother owned a restaurant. They owned the building together. So I was renting from him. I was working at his restaurant. I was running the restaurant for him, working like a dog. And he was paying me just enough that I almost had rent every month, So I was like paying him back all my money. And it got to the point where I was like, this is not going to get better,
You were completely dependent. He made sure you were dependent upon him. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, going anywhere without him, like he'd show up, like he'd hear about things that I did. So like, I really was like walked a line so that like it wouldn't be a problem, because if somebody flirted with me, it was my fault, kind of thing, And I was in food and bev and worked at, as a waitress and a bartender and all these things. And it was like, he did everything he could to just have me just work for him, kind of, But it finally came to a head when we were working together, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, it was, I said this in the TED Talk. My 10-year high school reunion was coming up. And before that, I had met my now husband about 5 years into it. And I knew that I was not anywhere near getting clear of my ex. So I kept Jay at arm's length and was like, I like you so much, but like I can't like hang out with you. Like that's not going to work. Cause if he finds out, like I'm going to catch it, but I obviously didn't tell Jason that, which it goes into like when you're going through all of this, you lie about stuff. I mean, I lied about bruises and marks, and like over the years I'd have crazy marks, like just giant bruises, and because I got thrown or something like that. And you just get, for me, I really kind of like siloed, like I have to lie about these things. It doesn't make me a bad person. But I was like forgiving myself for doing it, but it was also because I was lying to myself.
You were trying to protect yourself at the same time.
A lot of rationalization.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was healthy.
No,
Well, no.
but that's what
Yeah.
people do in that situation.
Yeah. Yep.
You do what you can to protect yourself and keep yourself as safe as you think you can be.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like I said, in the back of my mind, I was like, one of these days he's going to be like, it was you the whole time, Bren, but
But when when you were working for him, renting from him, like, how did you like literally leave that relationship?
so what ended up happening was, on the eve of my high school reunion,
Okay.
I told him, I was like, he knew we had common friends and whatnot. And I was like, I'm going to that reunion tomorrow night. And he was like, yeah, no, I don't think you should go to that. And I was like, right, like I'm going to go. And I had also introduced him to this other girl. I mean, I was always pushing girls at him. And part of that was because like, that's how he wanted it. And other times it was because if I could get him to like be with somebody else, then I could like fade into the mist. And in the moment it was, I feel I'm dealing with it, but like I feel guilty because I feel like I pushed her in front of the bus so that I could get away. And I don't know how to reconcile that. But if I didn't, it was like our fights were getting worse. They were getting more violent. And I was like one bad fight away from like something bad, really bad happening. I mean, I hadn't had to get stitches, but I've had like, I broke my nose. He cracked a rib one time. Like I was in and out of the hospital, which like we can talk about that because nobody in the hospital was like, what is going on? And like,
Nobody
we
in
know.
the hospital?
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Not a doctor's office, not a gyno, not anybody in the hospital. And like I went into the hospital with, it like crushed the top of my nose, but I broke my nose. I mean, my eye was all blood and like a huge bruise. And I told my family that I had been at a bar and there was a fight and that they were pulling the people fighting out and that I got kicked in the face because I didn't know what else to say. And it was literally the night before Thanksgiving. So I showed up to Thanksgiving with like this huge mark. And my aunt was like, yeah, we're going to the hospital. I was like, I'm fine. We don't have to go. And then we went down to the hospital and it was like all these whispers and no one said anything to me. And I was kind of like, okay, well,
Wow.
just, yeah, like I feel like there's a lack of training and education that can go on. Because I had called the police the one time and I was really adamant about all the things going on. And it was like, I don't know if the police had heard it before, kind of were numb to it, or if they hadn't had the training, but it would have been really good if they didn't let me go home with him that night instead of letting it happen,
Yeah.
Was this in Brooklyn?
This was in Albany, like when I finally called the police. And it was, I think it was actually that night that we got in the big fight. And I was like, I'm going to go to the party. Like I'm an adult and like you have a girlfriend. So frankly, like if you don't like what I'm doing, like we should
He
have
was still
a
trying
conversation
to
with
control
her.
you.
Well, he
So
had a
you guys
girlfriend.
had broken up
100%.
and he was seeing the other girl that
Yeah.
you were like, here, like,
Not
I'm okay
me.
with you. I'm okay with you moving on with someone
Yeah.
else.
I mean, I hope that it wouldn't be the same relationship, And like for him, I think he was getting a younger model and like he could train her and mold her and whatever. And I was like, all right, like maybe it'll work out better for you. Maybe I'm the problem. Like I have an attitude or,
I mean, I can
you know?
understand at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, the mentality you're in, you think the problem is still you.
mm-hmm.
So looking back now, I think you're like how you feel about like you said, pushing her in front of the bus kind of.
Yeah.
But at the time you were like, well, he could be very different with someone else.
Maybe.
Now you probably think that's probably
Oh, I know it's untrue.
not the case at all, but I get it in the moment
Mm-hmm.
or in that where you are?
I mean, I was sad when I found out later that like he was hitting her, and that they stayed. I don't know if they're still together, but they had stayed together for a very long time, and that that her marks were visible out and about, which, in my opinion, means that his behavior is getting worse.
Yeah.
So, and I do feel bad, but I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was kind of trying to survive. You know,
You were doing the best you could at the time. You were doing what you needed to do to get out alive.
yeah. And that's the thing, like our that last fight that we had was, you know, we were both sober, and I was just like, you know, I'm gonna go, and that's that. And he threw me over a table, and that's when I cracked my rib. We got in this big fight, and then something else happened, and I don't know, we were like struggling over something, and he cut his arm, like there was blood everywhere. It was this whole thing. So I called the police because I was like, I can't do this anymore, you know? And that ended up like fizzling out. I remember sitting on the stoop of the apartment building and just being like, are you, like, I can't say anything. He's right here. They didn't even separate us to talk about anything, you know? So I kind of like bitched and cried for a little bit. And then they were like, all right, well, you know, you live here and he owns a building. Like, what do you want us to do?
Oh my
You know?
goodness.
And like he had his apartment in the basement. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. So they were like, go back to your own apartments. And I was like, like I should have just done what I had to do to get out at that point. But after that, that's why I was like, he's gonna kill me. I was like, it's gonna be an accident, but like he's gonna kill me. And he had choked me out before, and I had been knocked out before, but I was really just thinking that like it's gonna be something that he doesn't actually mean, and I'm gonna end up dying.
But it just crosses the line enough to where
yeah,
it
just got crazy. And at the same time, Jason, who I had kind of pushed out of my life, popped back in. It was because it was just about 10 years, right? So that was a good 4 or 5 years after I was like, he had asked me out on a date, like, you want to go to the movies? And I was like, let me think about it. Let me call you back. And it was like 4 years. We had that bad fight. I went to the reunion the next day, and then Jay found me on Facebook. Like it was almost all like in the same week. And when he popped back into my life, I knew that this was God putting him back in my way, and that it was not going to happen again. And I knew the first time I met him that he was special, and like his friends were good, his family was good. I was like, I know that there's something different about this guy. So then when he came back in, I was like, I get it. Like I have to do something now. Like this is my only shot. So so when he hit me up and he wanted to date, I just did it. And I thought that my ex was going to lose his mind, and I was just like, I've never tried this before. So like, I'm just going to see like what happens. And I had my ex in a weird spot because he had a girlfriend. So I was like, you can't really throw that big of a fit because like you got a girlfriend, I know. And then he started to get really jealous and things like that. But like, he never put his hands on me again after I started dating Jason. And I remember at one point he's like, "Were you going to like marry Jay Lawrence?" And I was like, I might. I was like, I don't know. I was like, it could happen. And I was like, but like, if you F this up for me, I'm going to call your mom. I'm going to tell her everything. And he was like, no, you're not. And I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm going to call your mom. I'm going to sit down with your mom. I'm going to tell her all the things that you did. So I think it was a combination of, I had never been that ballsy to talk to him like that. But I know his mom. Like he knows I'll call her up and be like, just so you know. And I was kind of bluffing. Like I didn't really want to do that, but that's kind of how it ended. I just started separating. Jason was so patient. He didn't ask me questions about what was going on, like why we were still friends, like nothing like that. And I really didn't know what I was doing as far as navigating all that. And I'm so thankful that he was so patient and just gave me time to work it out. And then I quit working for him. I mean, my ex, he used to fire me like twice a week. He would get so mad. And then something happened one time and I was like, I quit. He's like, what? I was like, no, that's it. Like I'm out. I counted my tips at the restaurant and left. And then I remember he called me and was like, you're going to come to work tomorrow, right? I was like, no. I was like, I'm moving out of the apartment too. Like I'm done with all of this. And I needed to do it. I mean, that changed my whole life after I did that.
So you talked about how the first time you were naked when it happened. How would it have changed if your family members had known, if somebody had realized what happened, or if somebody said, hey, are you okay? What really happened? Would that have changed everything for you?
I mean, I want to say yes, because think of think of something that like you're working on or something, and someone says something that's so simple and you just needed to hear it from someone else. And like, I think that is as easy as it could have been for someone to be like, whatever happens, he shouldn't have hit you. Like, you don't deserve it. And I mean, it would be nice if someone had been like, don't tell me the details. I don't care. Because they don't matter. Because in your life, they don't matter.
They don't matter.
It doesn't matter what you did, what you were wearing, like whether or not you were naked. Like none of it matters. What matters is like, that is not how you handle problems. And like, that's just it. And if somebody had said that, that would have been incredibly impactful, because I believed everything that he said about that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't smart enough and all the things. But like, that he was willing to like put up with me basically, and if someone else had reminded me that like I am worth it, then that would have made all the difference. And that goes so much into the work that I do now, because I think I didn't recognize that our confidence comes from within. I assume that confidence came from applause.
Other people.
Yeah. Doing a good
telling
job.
you.
Right. Because like, I think that's also like inherently female of us to be like, don't rock the boat, don't make noise, like get along, take turns, and like certainly don't brag about yourself.
Yeah.
And like the bragging part is like, that's so negative, right? But the fact is, if you work your ass off for something, share it.
Absolutely.
That's so I say, I'm like, I'm not bragging, I'm sharing, because when I do it, I'm empowering other women and men to do it, to embrace all of that. And but the lack of confidence and the mystery around where it came from, because I thought it came from the outside, that definitely followed me for years. That followed me into my career and things like that. And that led me to eventually to imposter syndrome, which I learned about real quick, and then was like, we don't live here. That's a step. We're moving forward from imposter syndrome. But I think people don't recognize that it's like this little thing that you could do, and you don't have to get into the weeds or the details. They don't have to leave and move in with you. You can just say like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, you don't deserve it. That's like 2 sentences, and it could change someone's life.
So how did you get from there to where you are now?
As far as like the confidence and
As
all
far
the
as
things.
your
Emotionally.
confidence coach,
Yeah.
how did you emotionally heal? And I want you to also to talk about the way you raise your girls, because
Yeah.
I am so impressed. I mean, the things, I was in a meeting with someone yesterday who knows you,
I don't know.
and it was so funny. We talked about how she had said something negative and you spun it around to positive, and how
Right.
you and I have talked about this, how you spin everything. It's positive. There is no negativity allowed.
Yeah.
And it's what you've done is so impressive.
Thank
And
you.
it's just you help so many people. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about all of
Thanks.
that.
We had started performance psychology training at work, and I was really fortunate. I got one-on-one coaching sessions with Dr. Corey. He was great, and he's one of the first ones that was like, and the first time I met him, I mean, it was like word vomit. I told him all the things. I was like, you need to know all of this about me, because like I know I'm broken in places, but like you need to know so that we can fix it.
Had you been in therapy at all before that?
Dabbled like in and out. But that's why when I took this, is I was like,
So that was
going to be my
was this
therapy.
the first time that you really like truly told,
Oh, yeah.
this is who I am and what I've been through.
Yes.
To someone else.
Yeah, his eyes were huge. Like I didn't realize he was like, I'm going to talk about work stuff. He's like, I was like,
Wait, I'm a job performance
Yeah,
coach.
yeah.
Like, hold on.
yep. But I was just like, this is all the things, and you tell me where we're going to start, because like I want to get better, like I want to make money, I want to be successful, like all the things. But I didn't want to be. I was so nervous, like I couldn't eat before a meeting, and my hands were sweaty, and all this stuff. And I was like, I just want to live like a more confident life. So like, how do I get there? And that's when he was like, it's the reps, it's the repetition of the work that you're doing. So like, do your research, do your homework, and then as you do it, whether or not you win, as long as you know that you're putting in that honest effort, that's how you build your confidence. And I was like,
True.
so you're saying it's not from anyone else? And he was like, no. And I was like, check. Because finally someone said that to me. Like no one had ever said that. So then after that, when I went to do my first Disrupt, I had read,
Which is where I first saw you.
oh yeah, for the neutral thinking, right?
Oh, no. And then I saw you'd done it before. I saw Radical Candor.
Oh yeah, Radical Candor's a good one.
So that performance coach was the first person that you had spilled your guts to,
Yeah.
kind of, sort of. What about because you had mentioned earlier about your family. What about, when did your family find out?
I mean, my mom knew probably like 10 years ago. She knew like officially. I just flat out told her. I was like, well, you know that he did this, that, and the other. And she was like, I kind of thought that. And I was like, yeah, no, he did. And like, it wasn't not a secret. And it just is what it is. At that point, I wasn't trying to blame her, but I was kind of like, I am not a we don't talk about Bruno person. I'm like, let's get him in here and talk about Bruno. So, so I just kind of told her. I was like, if you were wondering, like, that is what happened.
And one of the things, thinking about your TED Talk, that was so powerful because, from statistically speaking, and 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience in their lifetime a version of what you experience, right? And I think I'll let you say it how you say it, because it puts it into perspective for people to think, what does that really look like?
So the way that I would kind of like make it hit home for people is that, let's say you're at a dinner with a couple couples and there's like 8 or 10 people, like 1 or 2 women in that group has been impacted, whether it's happened to them or it's happened to someone in their direct family. It could be happening right now, which is the other side of it, because if you're in a mixed group like that, if there's 1 or 2 that's impacted, it's not always the victim that you're with. It could be the bad guy.
Yeah. The perpetrator.
Absolutely. So, and I know a lot of times we consider it like the women are typically the victims. It happens a lot. And most of the time when women are the victims, it's a male that's abusing them. And I had said it once to a group of guys. I was like, you're on your golf trip with like 80 of your friends. Like statistically, like 1 or 2 of y'all are bad guys. And they were kind of like, I'm like, I know, right? It's uncomfortable. And it's not like I'm accusing people, but the fact is, like, we're in rooms with people that are going through it. It's not a poor problem.
Lived experience.
Absolutely. And it's not a poor problem or an uneducated problem or a rich problem. It's like, it's a human problem. And it's happening all over the place.
So, Brenna, I know you have 2 young daughters. And I think it would be helpful to understand, I mean, have you told them your story? Why do you think it is helpful for you to have talked to your daughters about what you went through?
I think
anyone who has gone through something like that and has kids.
Yeah. So I think the number one reason that it was important for me to talk to them about it is because no one talked to me about it. And I'll say, we had like the snake guy or whoever, the bird guy comes to school, right? And they do the whole thing, the presentations. We never had a presentation on red flags, gaslighting, like safe relationships, any of that. So that is important to me. And then when I looked at my kids, I was like, well, when is a good time to tell them? That's almost like, when do you have the birds and the bees talk? Like our girls are hitting puberty earlier than they used to. So you have to talk about uncomfortable things early. And I wasn't going to wait until my kids are in middle school to start talking about it, because this stuff can happen at any time, especially with social media and phones, all the things that they're exposed to now. I was like, this is way more important than all that other crap. So, so we talk about safe people and vibes and to trust your gut. And it was probably about 3 years ago when I started really volunteering with my sister's house a lot, and they had like a 5K. My husband and I were doing that and raising money and stuff. And I told the girls, this is what my sister's house does. These are the people that they help, and this is why. And they really, for how little they were, they really did understand it. And that's when I told them, like, well, mommy used to date a guy who was not a good guy, and he hit mommy, like, when he got mad. And I remember my husband came home, and my youngest, she's going to be 9 this year. This was like 3 years ago. And Jason walked in and she said, did you know mommy got punched in the face by her boyfriend? And I was like, well, that's right. I should have brought you up to speed, but this is what we talked about today. But I think that that's incredibly important. And I've talked to you guys about it. Like we believe in neutral thinking. So things aren't necessarily good or bad. They are what they are. And we're careful about self-talk is huge. And all these things, they were all happening parallel and simultaneously. And then I realized that it was all like deeply important to me and a part of something that I didn't know that I was becoming, right? So the mindset was huge, and I am very protective over my mindset. And if you're in a room with me and you say something negative about yourself, I'm going to correct you and help you reframe it, because your words are too powerful. So so that's huge. And we don't say negative things out loud. We don't say negative things about ourselves. If we're going to say anything, we say, what's the craziest, best thing that could happen, right? Because everyone's afraid that you're going to fall, but like, what if you fly? So so that's,
Love that so much.
I mean,
love it.
it's fun with the girls, because watching them grow and come into their own and be very like, no, this is how you do it. We don't talk like that. And like, they're the friend that like I needed, like that was really like my mantra behind it, is like, I want them to learn the things that I had to learn the hard way without the heartbreak. So I'm very open and frank about all kinds of, and there's no shame in my game. You know me.
Yeah.
So, if they have questions, sometimes if we're in public, I'm like, ask me when we get home and I'll tell you. But I don't shy away from things, because I just want them to be more equipped and stronger and to be little badasses like they are. I just want them to use all that power for good.
So what are you doing now to help women and help empower women?
So I am your resident hype girl. So
You are. You are the best hype girl there is.
I do.
Most definitely.
I do love it. So what I'm doing is I'm just very frank and open about what I've been through and what's working for me. And women have come to me, and it starts with like a pep talk. And then it's like, will you be my mentor? Like, can you help me? Will you coach me? And like, it was in my heart. It's something that I wanted to do. And then people kept asking me for it. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's so easy to make a big impact. Telling somebody that if you see something going on at your office, instead of saying, why don't you leave? Like, why do you take that? Like, those questions are garbage and they don't help. And it comes out accusatory towards a person, and you don't ever want to blame the victim. And teaching people that it's as simple as saying like, are you okay? Let me help you. And you don't deserve that. Those are 3 things that you can mix it up and say that. And then you won't scare the person, like if anything, they will feel like they'll feel seen, and the last thing you want to do is talk to someone who has bruises on them. And why do you take that? And it's like, because I like it. Like, why do you think? Because I'm broken. Like, I'm not in a good headspace, but somebody not in a good headspace doesn't know that to say it. So anything that I can do that is touching people's hearts and impacting like that is incredibly important to me. So then that all kind of led into, hey, hold that door, right? So hey, hold that door is part of it. As I think of like, you're going through that door, I'm like, hey, hold that door, I'm coming. Like, I'm going to. And the other side of it is, if I get through a door where I haven't been welcome before or invited, I am intentionally holding the door for the next person, because there's room for all of us.
So one thing I think about when I first met you, and then also what I know about you and the speaking you've done and who you are as a person, is what I see you doing is breaking the stigma of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, that sits so heavily, particularly on women, and which is kind of what you wish someone had done for you, right? Is to just say, what is actually going on?
Yeah.
Are you actually okay? And you being willing to talk about your story helps people to be able to ask that question.
I hope so.
And hopefully for anyone who's experienced it, I think to be willing to tell someone, And so I just think that's huge. And putting that out into the universe is amazing. So
Thank you.
The stigma breaking and supporting women is a beautiful thing.
Thanks.
So
It makes me
appreciate
feel,
you.
it genuinely makes me feel
It
so
is
good.
such a beautiful thing. And you're amazing. Thank you for being our guest today. And I just love spending time with you and hearing you talk. And thank you so much for everything you're doing for women, to build people up, and things you've done for me. I'm very, very grateful for you.
Oh, thanks. I'm grateful for you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. We're so glad you are here with us. We will have resources in our links where you can contact Brenna, you can watch her podcast, Hey, Hold That Door. We'll have resources to my sister's house and anything else you might need. or maybe a friend needs that you could reach out to. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Can we do